The time is just gone 8:31 a.m. as we continue with the broadcast this morning now with the energy crisis, with load shedding uh, causing major problems right across the entire country, and people looking at alternatives. Whether you're looking at inverters, you're looking at an alternative source of power, and I know many are considering solar as well and getting off the grid or getting partly off the grid. The key question is there are so many service providers. In fact, adverts are actually full of people providing the solar services, and the question is, are you going to be being scammed? We know that the prices are quite high. How genuine are some of these service providers? And the key question is what to look out for. What do you really need to look out for when you are considering going off the grid? And this is the reason why we are talking this morning with Eddy Mokobodi, Director, Renewable Energy and Battery Storage at Sakisa Energy and Technology Group. Eddie, good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Morning, morning. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, Eddie, we are inundated with service providers offering, solar as an alternative to the problems that we are faced at this point in time. People are considering getting off the grid. Yesterday, we heard the DA leader talk about the government providing some sort of relief or rebates to households who are installing solar and feeding back into the grid. Just looking at the solar market at this point in time, I'm sure it's quite a busy market.
No, yes, it definitely is. As providers in the solar space, we've seen a lot of inquiries, especially with the recent load shedding, more so the stage six situations. Yeah.
Yes. Now, just looking at people wanting to get off the grid, and looking at companies like yourself, Eddie. I'm sure that you do a detailed assessment of what the requirements are, whether people want to get off the grid totally or they want to get partly off the grid. Just take us through the process. Inquiries come through. What do you do? What do you tell people?
Okay, so what we tend to always do is we prefer not to overpromise because what we've noticed is that a lot of service providers are quite keen on getting the sale and not being truthful in their offering. So the most important thing to tell anyone who has an inquiry is that getting off the grid immediately is not an easy thing to do because you have to factor in things like weather, bad rains, system size, and cost. So the first step is to try get them partly off the grid, meaning that their reliance on ESCOM or the grid reduces through a hybrid solar system. So if you were using X amount of units a month, say 1,000 units, we're going to try and put a system that will probably bring you down to 500 units or 300 units, depending on your budget. And then as we build the relationship after that first step, we've covered the load shedding. We can then make you a lot more secure and further away from the grid as possible as your budget goes.
Yes, in fact, that makes a lot of sense actually. And just looking at some of the key considerations that people need to take into account, Eddie, when they are considering. We know the cost factor is one, and I personally have been scrutinizing. Some of these service providers, I've been looking at the cost. It is quite costly at this point in time, and also at the same time, when one looks at the need, where is the need the greatest to get off the grid, Eddie?
Mm, mm, mm. Mostly in the households, in your large metro areas, we've seen a very big need. And also sometimes people use the word getting off the grid quite loosely. They don't mean that they want to cut their aircom line. They just want to be less reliant. So we have to determine that, are you trying to cut your ESCOM line, or are you trying to be less reliant and less exposed to load shedding, which is probably the case for 80% of consumers.
Yes. Now, just looking at the average household, Eddie, we know that there are, when we look at your high usage of energy, possibly you would be looking at your geyser, you would be looking at electric stoves, anything that basically heats. Now, those are the major pullers of electricity, or the major users of electricity in any household. Lights, that can be basically overcome. Just looking at, where the need is greatest, what advice would you give to an average household if they want to get partly off the grid?
So, an average household, I would tell them, let's start you off with a system that covers your lights, your plugs, your TVs, all of those things. The geyser and stove we don't cater for initially, all right? And then as time goes on, we then look at other intercepting methods for the geyser and for the stove. So maybe they can do a gas stove, they can do a gas geyser or a solar geyser. So that when we look at all those things combined, then your reliance goes down significantly.
Yes. So, if you're looking at an average, for instance, looking at an average household, just the basics that you speak about, lights, plugs, television, those type of things, just to keep them going. You would assess, what the requirements, what the need, and the size of the household. Obviously, that also matters. But also looking at, you know, uh, other alternatives, like, for instance, people that have got inverters possibly by now already. Some may have standby generators at this point in time. You would take into account all these factors.
Yes, that's correct. So if a client has a generator, we have to design the system also to take into account that the generator can also be connected to the whole house as well.
Mm. Just looking at it from a cost point of view, because sometimes people find that moving off the grid to be very, very expensive. How can it become more cost effective?
It depends. So the average smaller house, solar systems could be between early 90 to early hundred thousands of rand. And then as you go through the bigger technologies and the better technologies, the price can increase quite drastically to about 150, right up to 200,000 rand for a big house. Um, so what we always assess with clients is we suggest that scale it back to your budget. If you can't afford the full system, start with the battery backup, the inverter and battery solution, which might be half of that, maybe about 55 or 60,000 rand or so, and put that in and keep your essentials on through load shedding. When you get a bit more money, then you can add your solar panels onto that and start to generate your own electricity. And then as you go further, maybe you can add another battery and a few more panels. And that's how the journey begins. Because we have to be realistic that not everybody's got large sums of capital lying around ready to eat all.
Yes, Eddie. So what you're saying is entry level. You look at around 55,000 rand.
Every level, level of load
No,
shedding or level of improvement.
entry level.
Oh, yes,
For someone.
entry, yes, entry. Yes, correct. And that would be an inverter with a battery as a battery backup unit. That's a 5 kilowatt setup. The reason why we do 5 kilowatt setup is because people still have kettles and microwaves that they'd like to use in the middle of the load shedding. That's a 5 minute appliance. But if you have a smaller inverter, you might have challenges. And also for long-term expansion, it's better to use the 5 kilowatts than the 3 kilowatts.
Yes, and just looking at the lifespan of the installation. I mean, everything has a lifespan, and looking at particularly at the batteries, because those are about the most expensive in any system that is being installed. What sort of lifespan are you looking at?
So solar panels should last between 20 and 25 years. The batteries are designed to last on a warranty of 10 years, most good batteries. This is lithium batteries. So the assumption would be that they last beyond the warranty, so maybe 10 to 15 years or 12 years. Also depending on the cycles, how many times they get charged and discharged. The inverters have warranties of 5 years. So that should be the typical solar installation that anyone should be looking for.
Mm, yes, and Eddie, if anybody wants to get in touch with you for advice, how do they get all of you?
Okay, so my company WhatsApp number is 076 539 9432.
Right, 076
Zero seven,
539 There we go.
yes.
All right, no problem. In fact, we will obviously push it out. But Eddie, for now, we thank you for taking time out and providing us with the advice and some sort of insight into how this entire solar system works, and also looking at what people can expect and what they should be considering. So thank you for that, and taking time out and talking to us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Eddy Mokobodi, Director, Renewable Energy and Battery Storage at Sakisa Energy and Technology, with us this morning. Just to repeat that WhatsApp number, 076 539 9432. We're going to go for a break. We'll be back.